Right, welcome everyone, and thank you to Awakening Together. If you haven't already checked them out, check out awakeningtogether.org. It's awakening-together.org on the web. And they have some amazing classes. Go check out if you need any help. I would recommend all the teachers and the beautiful love that always comes through when I join with this group. It always feels very inspired. Feels like the Holy Spirit's there working through everyone. So, and I would like to say I feel very honoured to be asked to speak each week. It feels like we're in the holy purpose of walking each other home. We all go home 2 by 2, which is just walking together. It's maybe not even 2 by 2, we might be all going, but we always says we all go home together. So we go home together. We go home by joining each other, by becoming aware of who the other is, because there is no other, it's one. So this is the way we go home. We use our brother, we've used him to retain this idea of separateness, and we're going home through some mind training to be trained to see our brother differently. So this is a Course in Miracles. Is a course. We take the course, we take the lessons, we take the text, we take the manual for teachers and all the other supplements. Supplements, it sounds like we're taking vitamin supplements. Yeah, that's our medicine, isn't it? We take it all in, and it's about changing our minds. It's about changing our perception. It's about practicing this course. It's a practical course. We first of all, we have to know what all the words sort of mean. We have to get some understanding of, when we read a word, what it means in the course. And the course has new meanings for lots of words that we're used to having another meaning. So we need to understand and get an understanding of what those words mean. And then through that understanding, it's like our mind becomes illuminated. It's like light bulbs start going off. And the way it works is, it might seem that for quite a while you're not getting any illumination. It might seem that you're reading the text and doing the lessons, and it might seem like not much is happening. But I can guarantee you that under the surface of the mind, lots is going on. And there will come a day, there will come a time where it starts happening. And so just keep going. Just keep going with what you're doing, where you feel intuitively to be, intuitively what to read, what inquiry suits you, what book suits you to read other than the course. And just do what you do. He says doubt will come and it will go, and it'll come back, and then it'll go, and then it'll come back, and then it'll go. So when you get doubt about what you're doing and how you're doing it, just remember that doubt will go. Within a day or two, it'll shift away, and you'll come to look back and say, oh yes, I had some doubt. And then it just went. As I kept resting in God, as I kept applying the little ideas from the course, as I kept doing it and saying the lesson to myself, applying the lesson to all the situations that are arising, within a few months, you'll just say, oh, actually, I'm just starting to feel more peaceful. So do what works for you. Own your journey. Forget what anyone else is doing. You might be curious as to what other people, how they've applied the course, but it's an individual curriculum. So yours might look a little bit different. You might find that you're more inclined to maybe do Byron Katie's for questions, and it doesn't suit someone else. They don't find that works for them. You just need to just really own this journey. That's an important part. That's why accepting the atonement for myself is such a huge teaching. We must really get that really clear in our minds that this is my journey. I'm going to let everyone be as they are. I'm going to let everyone practice and talk about the course and what the words mean, and maybe even argue or dispute things. But really take ownership that I want the peace of God. This peace is mine to have. It is an actual experience. And there's many minds that have gone before us and told us about this experience and said this is the way. So when Jesus says, I am the way, the truth and the life, he means that he is leading us. This is the way. He's given us a program. He's asked us to read the text. He's asked us to not try to understand it. He's telling us the practice of it will bring the experience. And when we have the experience, we're going to know. So he's talking about knowledge. He's not asking us to try to understand it, because we're going to be using the ego to try to understand. The understanding comes from the realizations that come from practicing it. So just practice it. Just when you get upset, apply the daily lesson or do some inquiry, just keep going. You'll find that slowly, it dawns on you. Your mind's going to start illuminating, and towards the end, it's like, adding little bits of money into a bank account. It doesn't seem to add up to much compound interest, and then all of a sudden it's going to take off. And I found that with myself and most people I've worked with, that there comes a tipping point where all the work that you've done for many years, it all starts to accumulate and everything starts to get linked up. You find that all the lessons in the course will just join together. It'll be like what I call aha moments. There's just some part of your mind that starts getting it, just starts illuminating, and you can't say why that happens, but it's just this calling of the heart, this coming to God, this constant noticing when you're out of peace. And it's just a doing of it. It's just a doing every day, the work in your mind. It's all done in your mind. And we come to have our mind changed. So we don't try to change the world. We try to change our mind about the world. So we're constantly doing our mind training, and it's all in the mind. So I'm going to continue today on the lesson 136, sickness is a defense against the truth. So I'm just going to start by saying a prayer. I've already said my prayer before I started the video, but I'm going to say it here just so you can witness my prayer. So, Holy Spirit, we're going to continue on with the lesson, defense. Sickness is a defense against the truth. So as I read these words, let your understanding, what you would like to be shared through me. I give you everything that I have, an empty vessel for you to speak through and shine through. So I'm just, amen. So I'm just giving over everything just to share. So if you, one of the ladies in that group asked me to continue, a few people said they got quite a bit out of what I shared last week, or what was shared through me. So this week, I don't know where I stopped last week, but I opened it up at this lesson and I felt just intuitively to start from paragraph 6. So I'll just start reading and just start sharing. Mistake this not for fact. Defences must make facts unrecognisable. Okay, so facts are that you are created by love, perfect, whole and complete. That's fact. The fact is of who you truly are, this beautiful love of God. perfect, always been perfect, infinite and eternal, the love of God, in the mind of God as love, the most beautiful, magnificent, boundless, edgeless love, love that is beyond anything that you've ever experienced here. That's a fact. That's what he's talking about here. Defences must make facts unrecognisable. So when we defend against the truth, and the truth is that's a fact, we make those facts about ourselves unrecognisable. So we keep the defences in our mind. We desire these defences because we are completely fearful of the love that we are. We think that if we become this eternal, infinite love, that something will be asked of us that we don't want to do. There'll be that's what he calls about sacrifice and loss. We have in our mind that we will be called to do something that we will be against, that there's something in our mind that says, I'm comfortable now where I am, whether it be I might be asked to leave my home, I might be asked to leave my job. I don't know what God is going to ask me to do, what the Holy Spirit's going to lead me to do if I give my life over to God. So this tiny little aspect or this thought that we think there's going to be some sacrifice, that is the ego thought that says there's going to be some sacrifice that comes from being in the mind of God, joining back to this love. And that's what we have to notice. So that's why we make ourselves sick. That's why we join with sickness, because it defends us. He's going to go on and tell us why we actually are choosing sickness. But he says, what we read last week was that it is so rapid when we join with sickness that we forget that we've joined it. It's out of our awareness. So it definitely seems like sickness is happening to us. So he says, this is your experience, that you feel that you are getting sick without your choice, that it happened to me and I didn't choose it. But he's telling us we chose it, but he's giving us a clear way to understand why we chose it, because we're scared. We're scared of this love. We're scared of this beautiful, infinite love of God. So that's why he's not telling us that we're bad or guilty or wrong for choosing sickness. He's not saying you're a bad student of the course or you're a big fat ego that's bad because you chose sickness. He's really wanting us to see the real reason why we chose sickness, and he's got this tenderness. He's coming to us very tenderly to try to help us choose something different. So he's saying, he's asking us to look where the real problem is, not to say I'm sick and here's my body being sick and therefore I have to find a remedy in the world. He's telling us that there's no problem with that. If that's where our level of awareness in our mind is, not to make ourselves guilty if we decide to take some medication. But he's telling us that at some stage in our journey, we're going to have to look at why we're choosing sickness. And he's telling us that we are choosing it because we're fearful, because we're scared of the love of God. We're scared that we're going to be asked to do something that's going to be some sort of sacrifice or loss, whatever it is. And only you can pinpoint in your mind where that sacrifice stands. I've heard many, many people share what the ego tells them, why awakening to this beautiful love within. what the sacrifice will be. And when we shared it as a group, most people laughed at other people's ideas of loss. So we start to see that we take what the ego says as the sacrifice or loss. We take it very seriously, but it will disappear once we start to laugh at it. But we have to look at it. We have to bring it up into our awareness. We have to inquire in, what is the ego holding in my mind as a negative, I guess you could say, against awakening? What is its story that this will happen? There's a certain thing that will happen if you awaken to love. And generally they seem to be stories of I won't be able to speak, I won't have any friends, I'll act like a lunatic. And yet all those things are generally the ego's way. When we're in fear, we act like a lunatic. He says we're all insane when we're coming from the ego. So the ego's trying to tell you when you're awakened to this love and when you're free and your mind's free and you're living in a beautiful awakened state of emptiness of just this love of God, it tries to tell you that it's going to be horrendous or something silly is going to happen. And yet if you look at it, that's what's going on when you're in the ego's mind. So we have to, it's very important on your journey to look at this particular thing that the ego holds against awakening. But in this particular lesson, Jesus is honing in on our idea of the body, our identification as what he calls dust, a bit of dust put together. So, defences must make facts unrecognisable. They aim at doing this, and this they seem to do. So through our defences of getting sick, of choosing sickness, he's telling us that they seem to make the fact that we are this eternal, infinite love of God, it makes it unrecognisable because we're sick and we're in pain. Every defence takes fragments of the whole, assembles them without regard to all their true relationships, and thus constructs illusions of a whole which is not there. Now I'm just going to go through this particular sentence. I'm going to go through every sentence very carefully so you really understand this lesson. Every defence takes fragments of the whole. Now, the whole is everything is one. So the whole is everything you are, everything you see, everything is God. It's all God. There's nothing but God. And every defence, which is, he's talking about sickness here, but every other defence you make takes fragments of the whole. So it takes what looks like another body and it takes your body. So your body, it's going to look at your body as if it's a fragment of the whole. So remember, we fragmented in love, eternal love, into fragments. So when we fragment it off, we believe that we look at this body and we're taking a fragment. We're saying this body is something separate to everything else. Assembles them without regard to all their true relationships. So our true relationships is that we're one with everything. So our true relationship is mind. So our mind is one with every other mind. It's one mind. That's our true relationship. So we're assembling all these bodies here and our body in our mind. And it constructs illusions. So the illusion is that I'm separate from everyone else. we're separate. So we construct illusions that I am this body and you're your body and someone else is their body. And it says all these bodies are separate. Thus construction illusions of a whole which is not there. So when we are living in the illusion that we're separate bodies, that we're separate from each other, we're saying that the whole is not there. We're unaware. So we're in the split mind. We're in the part of the mind that has forgotten oneness and wholeness. It is this process which imposes threat and not whatever outcome may result. It is this process. So when we're in a process of constructing illusions, when we're in a process of saying that body is separate to me, it's not me, it's not part of the oneness. When I'm saying bodies, I mean, bodies aren't one, but what I'm saying is that the ego perceives other bodies as separate, that we have to come to see, he's asked us in the course to not look at bodies, to not deny that someone's a body, but to overlook the body. In other words, not pay much attention to the body of another, but to join them in the mind. So the ego's always got a commentary about a body. So when it meets a new body, it looks at it and it compares. It says they've got black skin or they've got white skin. They speak differently, their teeth are crooked, they've got a big nose, they've got no hair, they've got long hair. It will constantly put a meaning on the body. And what happens is when you're constantly looking at bodies, the ego will characterize and summarize and judge on the body. And it has all these preconceived ideas about what bodies are. So to transcend the ego, we're asked to very faintly hold the body, not even look. Don't judge the body at all. Don't judge the words that come out of the body. Don't judge the body. Completely be oblivious, to see it as neutral. It's like you as a pencil. Imagine you being just a normal grey lead pencil and you're meeting another grey lead pencil. So just see every other body as the same as you, a grey lead pencil. And what we're going to do is we're going to look beyond whatever words are coming out. There might be, because you're meeting egos here, so you're going to hear the mind is in the egos coming through their mouth. So you're going to go beyond it, and all you're going to hear is a call for love. If they're not speaking loving words and telling you how beautiful and magnificent you are, it's the ego. And because there's not many awakened minds as yet, most 99.9% of the time, you're going to hear, please love me. Forget the words that come out of the mouth, ignore it, and just hear, please love me. So if your mind starts to assess another body, you need to judge not, right? Don't judge, just say, okay, I'm stopping to judge now, and everything is a call for love. So whether they're fat, whether they're tattooed, whether they're Donald Trump, whether they're anyone, even if it was Hitler, it's a call for love. There's no hierarchy of illusions here. Everyone is calling for love. So we are now going into the Christ mind, where it doesn't see order of difficulties, it doesn't see a order of illusions, that this body is any different to anything else. So we're going to go past the illusion. This is the way home. We have to go past the illusion that the body is that person. We have to start connecting in to their right mind. And this is the way the Course says your right mind, or your clear mind, will shine into their mind. So as you, on your journey, you need to be connecting, hearing everything as a call for love, and your response is love. And the Holy Spirit will give you the words and the actions if you need to take any actions. And this is the miracle working, that you look beyond the comparisons that the ego tells you. The ego will come up, and the ego uses the past, and it'll use, you'll find that everyone characterises, you know, one mind will love a tattooed body and another mind won't. And, you know, someone that really loves tattooed bodies will really hate untattooed bodies, or see them maybe as a threat, because they're not joining them in their love of pictures on a body, you see. So you even have to see that you can even have a judgment the opposite way. So everything is opposite. So any comparison that the ego in your mind brings up when it meets another body, your practice is to constantly overlook it and go beyond and join. So this is how the ego constructs illusions of a whole. So the whole is to see that they're all of it. When you are looking at a body, you want to overlook the body, stop the judgment, just say, no, I'm not judging. Holy Spirit, you judge for me. And it'll be there. You need to go beyond that, and you need to see the immortal spirit, the beautiful love that they are. And as you do that, you're healing your mind of the ego split mind, and you're also helping that mind awaken. Now, you can't be attached to what that mind gets from what you say. Be unattached to anything anyone gets. Your job is to see a call for love, always. That's it. Everyone is calling for love, no matter what they say or do, however it appears. There's no hierarchy of illusion. It's all a call for love. So your response is love, always, to everything, everywhere, all the time. There's no exceptions. There's not one exception that we can use to not be love. So he's talking here about when we get sick. When parts are wrested from the whole. So the wholeness is our awakened mind where everything is one. And the parts is when we're in our split mind seeing parts. So we're seeing what we think is a part. So we think we fragmented wholeness, and we are in a state of mind where we truly believe that there's another body there and it's separate from us. When parts are wrested from the whole and seen as separate and wholes within themselves, so we think that that body is a whole thing. So when I see another body and I think that's a whole body and that's a whole thing within itself, this is where we're in a wrong perception, and this is what we have to go beyond. He's telling us the way to be free of sickness. They become symbols standing for attack upon the whole, successful in effect, and never to be seen as whole again. And yet you have forgotten that they stand, but for your own decision of what should be real, to take the place of what is real. So what is real is the oneness of our minds, our infinite self as God created us, this beautiful, magnificent love that we are, the Holy Spirit, the Christ mind. And what is a Christ mind? Christ mind is just pure and loving and open and free, and it just loves eternally. So when we're judging bodies as separate, we have made our own decision to do that. Now, we've forgotten that we've made that decision, but Jesus is reminding us. He's bringing us home by reminding us. So you're not going to remember that you made that decision. It's really good if you can look at this and say, I don't remember making the decision to make bodies separate. That's okay, because I don't think anyone does. But you will come to experience this. You will come to know this. When you join back with God's mind, you will understand everything. You will actually become aware of everything the Course says, but you become aware in a very different way to how you think it is when you read the text. It really just suspend all your understanding or judgment or trying to get to know what it's going to be like. But you'll see everything. You'll become aware of the tiny mat, how the tiny mat idea came, or how it seemed to happen but it didn't. You'll become aware of how this world is a dream. You'll become aware of how everything's happening all at once and how it's a paradoxically in linear time, but you will become aware of something that is out of awareness. When you're in the ego mind, you're unaware that there's another way of being where you actually have this seeing or this knowledge or this understanding of how everything is, and that this mind is how the mind is projecting everything. But you will come to this state of mind, and it's beautiful. It really is. There's no sacrifice in this mind. So sickness is a decision. It is not a thing that happens to you quite unsought, which makes you weak and brings you suffering. So when we hear these words, we have to hear them with an open mind, rather than saying, I've heard people say, I'm really bad because I chose sickness today. And I did hear, one of my friends that I haven't seen for many years, she was diagnosed with a terminal illness, and she just said, I chose this. But she was saying it in a way that caused her to feel really sad. We're not meant to, this lesson is not meant to activate the ego in saying, you're really a bad person, you chose this, look how crap you are at doing the Course in Miracles, you've chosen a terminal illness. He's telling us this is the way out. Just come to the Holy, just come in humility. Just come with an open mind and come to sort of a surrendering and saying, sickness is a decision. It is not a thing that happens to me quite unsought, which makes me weak and brings me suffering. Is a choice I make. I'm reading this actually with I instead of you. It is a choice I make, a plan I lay. When for an instant truth arises in my deluded mind, and all the world appears to totter and prepare to fall, now am I sick, that truth may go away and threaten my establishment no more. So we might have a moment where we have a glimpse of truth, might be reading the Course, we might be just sitting quietly, and we might have a moment where the truth enters our mind and we get an awareness or a glimpse of this love and this understanding that this world is totally unreal. It's a projection of separation. Now, there is another way to perceive this world. When it says it's unreal, it means that what the meaning I've put on it, it is a way home. So what he's saying here is that when we get a glimpse of truth, it makes us scared. It's not something we're used to understanding. So he's saying that it threatens our established. And what generally happens here is that we really we have a desire to be sick, and we also have that other desire to not be sick, so we're conflicted. How do you think that sickness can succeed in shielding you from truth? Because it proves the body is not separate from you, so you must be separate from the truth. So when we're sick, the body seems to have an autonomy. So what this lesson's about is that we are choosing sickness, and it's happening so quickly that we're unaware that we're choosing it, and we're not aware of the reasons. It's usually fear. And so we get sick, and then the sickness in our mind seems to be that the body has autonomy. We say, oh, I got sick this week. So it seems that it happens to us, and we were happily going along and we just happened to get sick. And he says that no, actually, if you look back there will be a moment where you had some thoughts, there would have been some fear thoughts coming up. And what happens is then after the fear thoughts come up, the body gets sick. And what it does in your mind, it proves, it says, I am this body, and this body has an autonomy. So it's shielding the mind. It's bringing the mind back to, yes, I'm this separate little body, and how sad it is that I'm sick, and look at me. And it's constantly reinforcing in our minds that we are this little body and that we can be attacked by germs. This is this idea that some food made me sick, some germs made me sick, and it happened to me. Where Jesus says, no, actually, you chose it. It's had nothing to do with germs or food or anything. So it's really important part of the journey away from sickness, the way to unwind from it, is if you read lesson 76, that there's nothing in this world that can cause your body to be sick except for your thoughts. And there's no wiggle room in this. It is always, always, always your thoughts, your fear in your mind that causes all pain and sickness in the body. And it's very actually good to know that, because that means that you understand where the cause is. So you don't go looking for the cause in the world. You bring the cause back to where it starts, the thoughts and the fear in your mind. And as you shift that, the body will just naturally be well. He says the body is neutral. But to you, neutrality will seem like health, because the belief in health and unhealthy will be undone. You'll see that the body couldn't possibly be sick. In the end, your mind will actually understand that it would be impossible for you to be sick, because if sickness is caused by the fear in the mind and you undo all the fear in your mind, your body will never ever be sick. It will be impossible. So we're going past the thought system that says the cause is in the world, and we're going back to the true cause, which is the fear in our mind. We're going to undo that, and we're going to get to love, and love can't be sick. Yeah, so you will be, you will probably deem yourself to be healthy, and then you'll see that that's even a concept as well, being healthy, because healthy is a dualistic term that means there could be something unhealthy. And in oneness, There's no concept of healthy or unhealthy. It's just love. It's oneness. It doesn't have an opposite. So they're steps away. So just start where you're at and work with the Course to undo it. How do you think that sickness can succeed in shielding you from truth? Because it proves the body is not separate from you, so you must be separate from the truth. So when it says because it proves the body is not separate from you, this you is this perfect love of God as God created you. That's the you. So sickness proves that I am the body. So we're constantly, when we get sick, it's a constant proving, yes, look at me, I am a body. I'm not the love. How can I be love when I'm sick? I must be this body because it keeps getting sick. You suffer pain because the body does, and in this pain are you made one with it. So it's like any sickness or pain of the body is seen, and everyone here believes that its cause is like, if I get a back pain, it must be I must have pulled a muscle, or but if we go back to the Course, so anytime you're sick or you have any pain in your body, you say there's an unforgiveness in my mind. So you go straight to the cause. But if you want to, for a while, use the belief in medication and what he calls magic. So don't make yourself wrong for that, but go straight to the cause. So you can work on both things at once. Don't make a story of the pain and sickness. Don't tell a big story, oh, I must have been something I ate, maybe I got food poisoning or this, that. Forget about the story. So start off, just let the stories go. To say, okay, what do I need? I might take some medication. I know that's helped in the past. Don't make yourself bad for that and say, right, there's some unforgiveness in my mind. And so join with the Holy Spirit. Thus is your true identity preserved, and the strange, haunting thought that you might be something beyond this little pile of dust, silence and stilled. So he calls the body a pile of dust. And if you look around, everything's going to go back to a pile of dust. This whole world is a pile of dust. That's why he says everything here is just a pile of dust. And if you're valuing yourself as a pile of dust, you're valuing something that is valueless. You might think to yourself, oh my God, what am I? And if you go into any fear around this, just hold Jesus' hand and he's going to show you how much love you are. He's going to cross that little gap. He says the fear in your mind is like a little gap. So can you imagine, like, if you've ever sort of maybe on some rocks where you're a little bit fearful to cross a gap to another rock and maybe you're high above the ground. So he's going to take your hand and let you jump across that gap. So as you're standing on the edge of that rock fearful, what am I going to do? What am I? I don't know what I am. Please hold my hand. He's going to cross that gap with you. So if you do have any fear in your mind, just hold the Holy Spirit or Jesus' hand and cross that gap. He's going to continually tell you, hey, you're not this body. You won't die. I love that. I just love that. I've done a little YouTube clip on how everything's dust because I saw it. I just came to see that everything is dust here. And if you have a look at anything you're really valuing, just remember, he just goes to dust. So anything you value is going to be 100 years, 200 years, going to be dust. So he says if it's not eternal and infinite, it's not worth valuing, and just move on. 4C, this dust can make you suffer, twist your limbs and stop your heart, commanding you die and cease to be. So he's saying this dust, he's saying the body is made of dust, which is just, little bits of nothingness. So, when you pick up dust and you let it go, that's it. So if we were to look at the body after it crumbled and died in the ground, they dig up bodies, they're dust. That's not you. That's not you. We think we're in this world where we're in this body, but we're not. We're something. We've got to go beyond it. We can't deny the body. but we have to go beyond it. We have to see where mind, this does. So we think this dust can make us suffer, but it can't. It says the body has no autonomy. The body is not making you suffer. The suffering is coming from your mind. The cause, and it says it's twisting your limbs. It's not. It's all coming from the mind. And stop your heart. No, it can't stop your heart. We're going to go, this course is going to take us to a place where the body is not going to get sick. It's not going to be, the heart will stop, but the body won't stop it. You'll choose it. You will choose when you lay your body gently aside, and your body won't get old, and it won't get sick, and it won't get hurt. And that's where we're going to. We're going to aim for the highest level of mind in this lifetime. I hope you can join me in this and have it as your goal, the peace of God, to go beyond the body, to have this mind of God that is beyond anything here. Thus is the body stronger than the truth, which asks you live, but cannot overcome your choice to die. So it's there is an attraction to death, and I know that. When I was in my ego mind, I was attracted to death a lot. So I did try to actually commit suicide twice, seriously. So I know that attraction to death by the ego. I understood this course a lot better from this understanding of how we're attracted to death, how the ego mind tries to tell us we're this body and to die, to get away from suffering. But the only way out is through the atonement. So we think that the body is stronger than the truth, and we're trying to prove it. We're trying to constantly say, hey, look at my body. It's stronger than the truth. The truth is that I'm not this body, but look how sick I am. So the body is. So we see that the body is more powerful than everlasting life. We think the body's more powerful than heaven. We say that heaven is frail, and that we're in hell, and we also say that God's design for the salvation of His Son opposed by a decision stronger than His will. So we literally are saying the ego has won. We join with the ego. We're choosing the ego, and we're saying His Son is dust. The Father is incomplete, and chaos sits in triumph on His throne. So we have to really look at what Jesus is telling us here. We have to contemplate if you're suffering sickness or pain. You have to sit with this lesson for as long as you need. Look at it, really go through line by line and ask the Holy Spirit to reveal where the fear is in your mind, or the fear of going beyond the body. And only you can do that. Just join with Jesus and say, heal me of this belief in sickness. Heal the fear in my mind that's causing this sickness, this fear of love. That's what the ego is, the fear of love. Such is your planning for your own defence, and you believe that heaven quails before such mad attacks as these. With God made blind by your illusions, truth turned into lies, and all the universe made slave to laws which your defences would impose on it. Yet who believes illusions but the one who made them up? Who else can see them and react to them as if they were the truth? God knows not of your plans to change His will. So God's will is, it's like His will is, how can I say this? God is love, and we're created by love. And His will is that we be as we are, love. And love embodies happiness, joy, and peace. And in truth, there's nothing else but that love and joy and peace. And that's God's will. When it says God's will for me is perfect happiness, it means that that's what you were created for, and that's what you're going to be. Now, there's an essence of this powerful love that knows we're in a dream of separation, and that we created these bodies to act out the illusion of separation. So the Holy Spirit was built into it, so it's like it came into it. But even the Holy Spirit, because we never had, it's impossible for love to be anything but love. So it's like this whole illusion of being separate, and the Holy Spirit and the atonement that was built into it, that's all in the dream. So it's like when you're dreaming at night and something comes into the dream to help you wake up from the dream, that's also in the dream. And when you wake up from the dream, all the part that was in the dream that was waking you up vanishes as well. So when you wake up to truth, there's nothing that that's saying that it didn't happen. So when you awaken to truth, you'll see that this whole illusion of separation couldn't happen, that it's all one, that everything's one, that this idea, so it's like while you're still seeing the world, you're still seeing what seems to be trees and walls and computers and things like that. Your perception's not perceiving it as separate. Literally, in knowledge, you see everything as one, everything unified. I call it God because to me, everything is now in my perception. It's all one. It's I can't even explain it in words, but I know that that's what happened when I just shifted into this other way of perceiving. And it's not changed since that shift many years ago. So that is the knowledge that comes into our mind in that moment. So that God's will is, it's a will. It's not like God is sitting there as a separate thing willing you to change your mind. We have to take responsibility. He's asking us to take responsibility. So we have to know, we have to first of all understand what we are and where we are. And that comes through an experience. But if we're believing that we're sick and in pain, and we have to use this lesson, sickness is a defense against the truth. We have to see how we're using sickness to defend against the truth of who we are. And he's telling us very clearly that you are trying to usurp God. You're so scared of this love that we are. It's craziness actually to think that we're scared of this infinite eternal love that we are one with. But we're trying to make ourselves, we're trying to be tiny and little, and we're trying to say, I am this tiny little body that can be affected by other little bodies here. So we've really shrunk our mind down into this split off area of our mind. God knows not of your plans to change his will. The universe remains unheeding by the laws by which you thought to govern it. And heaven has not bowed to hell, nor life to death. So, who you are cannot die. That's why who you are is eternal. So through the practicing of your spiritual path, you should come to an experience of knowing something, a part of you. I call it mind, but it's very abstract. You'll come to an experience of seeing that there's some part of you that is eternal and cannot die. You can but choose to think you die or suffer sickness or distort the truth in any way. What is created is apart from all of this. Defences are plans to defeat what cannot be attacked. So I'm going to finish here because I've just got a couple of minutes to go, but I will next week. I didn't get very far in this lesson. But anyway, it was, I want to actually go very slowly through this lesson around sickness. So it's really clearly understood because it's very easy. As I said before, it's very easy to read this lesson and let the ego use it against you again to attack you and say, yes, look, you chose sickness. You can't do the course properly. You're constantly getting sick. You're failing. The ego will come along your spiritual path and tell you you're failing at all different. Every day it'll tell you you're failing it. So it's really good to actually come to just to acknowledge that the ego is going to commentate on your spiritual path. It's going to tell you didn't meditate long enough, you didn't reach some clear mind when you meditated, that you should give it up, it's not working for you. It's going to constantly commentate, and it's going to fail you at everything you do. You do some inquiry, the ego will tell you didn't do it good enough, you didn't get clear enough, look at that other person, they did that same inquiry and they seem to be happier. So it's important to understand that the ego is going to commentate your journey, and it's always wrong. So it's good to say, hey, a friend of mine said to me one day, which I thought was the best thing, it's a little bit like she says to the ego, thanks for sharing. It's like, it's like, thanks for sharing, but it's not true. So it's a little bit like the ego tries to help you by criticising you, but it's like, thanks for sharing. So, and thanks, it's lovely to see you, and thanks everyone for joining, and thanks Dawn once again. I bless you for your beautiful turning up every week and giving your time and opening this room and sitting there for me so I can share. And I just feel so much gratitude for everyone here. It's so much gratitude to you, Regina, and all the other people here. So thank you, and I love you, and I bless you, and I honour you, and have a beautiful, beautiful week. Love you, and bye-bye.
Thank you, Kate. Thank you.